السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. So, brothers and sisters, so this chapter is the introduction on Fiqh Muamalat, where um, we'll discuss what is Fiqh Muamalat, okay, and what is its position in among all the types of fiqh, and then we'll talk about the nature of Fiqh Muamalat and why this Fiqh Muamalat is important in our transactions. So look at the definition of fiqh muamalat. So as we know, the word fiqh, which means is a deep understanding, and the literal meaning of fiqh is the understanding the rulings of the Shari'ah related to human action from the sources of the Shari'ah. We have already learned before. So now the term muamalat. Okay, muamalat is the plural of muamalah. Okay, which means engaging with other in an action. So what is the meaning of fiqh muamalat? So fiqh muamalat is understanding the rulings of the Shari'ah for human actions relating to mutual dealing with others. So fiqh muamalat is to simplify it, it is the understanding or deep understanding uh, of how to deal with others, okay, according the deep understanding of the Sharia rulings or Sharia or hukum of the Sharia, okay, relating to the dealings with others. So this is a part of fiqh, which is actually focusing on the dealing with others. So we can see, okay. So this actually fiqh muamalat from the in the past, okay, it used to cover all types of muamala, means any kind of dealings with others. So it would used to include marriage, sale, political affairs, etc. However, now if we say fiqh muamalat, mostly people will mean by fiqh muamalat is financial transactions, financial dealings. Okay, so here we can see the classification of fiqh. So the Sharia at first can be divided into three. One is the Aqidah and Fiqh and Akhlaq. Okay, and then this fiqh can be divided firstly into two, which is Fiqh Ibadah and Fiqh Muamalat. Okay, Ibadah are the worships and Muamalat the transactions. And then this transactions can be divided into many. So these are some of the examples. Like we have fiqh al-jinayat, it's a criminal law, Islamic criminal law. We have fiqh munakahat, Islamic family law. We have ahkam siyasah, Islamic political law. And then we have fiqh muamalat maliyah, Islamic financial law. So when we say fiqh muamalat, most of us, we actually mean Fiqh Muamalat Al-Maliyah, which is actually Islamic finance. So here we learn Fiqh Muamalat. In this subject, we are not going to learn about much on the criminal law, okay, Fiqh al-Jinayat, or not political law, but we'll focus on Al-Muamalat Al-Maliyah, okay, the dealings related to financial affairs. Okay. So now, why we need to study this fiqh muamalat? Why is it important? Okay, so if we go back to the basic, okay, principles of relation, you know that human being, they are social animal. They need to transact. They need to exchange things with each other. It has been happening from the beginning of human life. Okay. So this conducting financial transaction is a basic need for human being. So when we do this transaction, of course, a law is important to ensure justice and prevent harming each other in financial dealings. So when there is transaction, we cannot deny the mutual dealings. We must involve with buying and selling, with doing partnership business. So when we do so, there should be a law. If there is no law, then there may have violations, okay, there may have dispute that may lead to fight, and then may uh, you know lead to chaos, okay, in the human society. So there need a law so that there is justice, okay, there's so that we can prevent someone to harm other. So Fiqh Muamalat provides laws for human beings to prevent them from harming each other in their financial dealings. So Fiqh Muamalat is a set of principles actually that prevents people from harming each other, that makes justice among them. Okay, so Fiqh Muamalat enjoins justice among human beings through the following guidelines. So someone may ask, so how the Fiqh Muamalat makes guideline among the human being? So we can say that Fiqh Muamalat, they have some basic rules. With that, it is doing justice among human being. Okay, so first is the mutual consent. So for any uh, okay, the basic ruling is mabda ar-rida, or consent. Okay, that people are not forced to do the transactions. They do on their with their willingness. They have consent to do that. First, okay. Another example that Fiqh Muamalat is doing justice is prohibition of consuming others' property illegally. Okay, the Shari'ah, the Fiqh Muamalat prohibits okay, us to take somebody's property illegally without his permission, okay, without his consent, okay. Even in the last Hajj, okay, Hajjatul Bida, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, okay, that someone's property is honored, okay, as the day of the Arafah in Hajj. So it is prohibited for somebody to take someone else's property without his consent, without unless it is done through mutual consent. And then another principle is transparency is an important condition in agreements. So we can see in any agreement there is transparency. There is sometimes when there is a future dealings, the Sharia asks us to keep some people as witness, okay, so that it is transparent, there is no dispute. The Sharia prohibits garar or uncertainty in a contract, so that it is clear, it does not lead to any dispute, okay. And then finally, prohibition of usury, uncertainty, and gambling. So all these elements usury will know further in another chapter, that how this usury or riba is actually causing harm to human being. So the Sharia, Fiqh Muamalat prohibited all these things uh, to make justice, okay, and to prevent harm from each other. Okay, so so now let's say why it is important to okay, why the fiqh muamalat is important for us. Fiqh muamalat not only doing justice, along with that fiqh muamalat also encourage productivity. If you study fiqh muamalat, okay, and then we learn after this advanced fiqh muamalat, where we learn there are a lot of contracts that Islamic Sharia provides. Okay, as we learn from the Islamic banking practitioners, they say Fiqh Muamalat has a lot of creativity, lot of innovations. We have lot of contracts. We have Mudaraba, we have Salam, we have Musharaka, we have many more contracts. So this actually we have a lot of opportunity to practice, and these contracts actually encouraging productivity. Look at this mudaraba. Okay, somebody has money, but he doesn't have time to do investment, so he gives his money to somebody else. So with that, okay, they do the investment, they get profit, so there is a productivity in that, and there is an economic development. So that's the beautiful thing in fiqh muamalat. And then, of course, fiqh muamalat also promotes welfare among the people. See, in fiqh muamalat, we have some contracts like qard, loan, benevolent loan without interest, hiba, gift, wakaf is a perpetual charity. Okay, so these are the contracts are introduced in fiqh muamalat. So they are actually doing welfare, creating welfare in the human society. So we can say that, okay, from this, that fiqh muamalat is a basis for a progressive society. Okay, a society cannot be progressive without fiqh muamalat, and we cannot imagine a single day without Allah for our day-to-day transactions. example, renting house, pay bills, purchasing food, transferring money. So we actually cannot imagine a single day. We cannot go a single day without actually implementing fiqh muamalat, because every day we are involving with buying and selling, actually purchasing food. At least we buy food, or so all these are transactions. And when we do transaction, we also abide by the law of fiqh muamalat. Okay, so we can conclude that how important is fiqh muamalat. It is for our everyday needs. Okay, so now why we have to study fiqh muamalat? Why is it important to study fiqh muamalat? Okay, we can see the Quranic verse that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, وَمَا كَانَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ لِيَنْفِرُوا كَافَّةً فَلَوْلَا نَفَرَ مِنْ كُلِّ فِرْقَةٍ مِّنْهُمْ طائفة ليتفقهوا في الدين ولينذروا قومهم إذا رجعوا إليهم لعلهم يحذرون. So the meaning of this verse is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said it is not necessary that all will go out for battle in the fight of Allah, but why not a group of people among you, okay, they make the deep understanding of the Shari'ah, and then they give warning to their people when they get back to them. So it is compulsory for a group of people to learn deep knowledge on Sharia and also people's transaction, okay, so that they can give them warning when they come back to them. So with that, generally, it is actually compulsory for us to understand, to get the knowledge of fiqh, and then also fiqh muamalat, okay. Mm. So, first principle, why fiqh muamalat? Okay, so it is compulsory for every Muslim to know the Sharia rulings related to the transaction that he is involved in. So, when somebody is involved in a kind of business, as a Muslim, he must learn what is the Sharia ruling for that. Okay, Ibn Umar said it is not allowed for a person to conduct business in our markets except who has achieved deep knowledge on religion. So before somebody doing any kind of business, let's say somebody wants to do online transaction, it is compulsory for him to know what is the Sharia rulings for doing this in online transactions. Here, uh, so and then fiqh muamalat is something which is important, as I have said before. Okay, that fiqh muamalat is important because we need to get halal risk. Okay, halal provision, which is actually 90% of the ibadah. So here, one of the Islamic scholar who is very famous in Mazhab al-Hanafi, whose name is Muhammad ibn al-Hasan al-Shaybani. So he was asked to write a book of al-Juhud, okay, asceticism, okay, sism, which is al-Juhud means about spirituality, okay, how to be close to Allah and how to live this dunya. That is called Juhud. So somebody asked him to write a book on that, and he said, I have already written the book of sale, al-bay, okay, book of sale. And he mean that the book of sale already explain what is halal and what is haram. So asceticism or al-juhud is nothing but desiring what is halal and avoiding what is haram. So for him, actually, al-juhud or spirituality is actually following what is halal and avoiding what is haram, and that is muamalat. So many of us, we may believe, we may have the belief that in order to be close to Allah, we have to improve our spirituality, okay, and we may neglect the muamalat. But here, according to him, is actually if we want to be close to Allah, okay, we want to live this dunya and we want to have improve our spirituality, we focus on halal and haram. So with that, we can understand how important for us to learn the knowledge of fiqh muamalat. Okay, so now where we can get the hukum or rulings related to fiqh muamalat. So same like fiqh. So fiqh muamalat also will get the ruling from Quran and Sunnah. Okay, like About the prohibition of riba, we learn from Quran and Sunnah. And then some of the rulings we can learn from the ijma and qiyas, okay, like prohibition of banks, conventional banks interest. It is prohibited by ijma. So we can learn, and then also we will use uruf, custom, maslah al mursalah, okay, unattested public interest, saddu zara'i, blocking the means, istishab and istihsan. So these are secondary sources actually are used more in fiqh muamalat than others, because muamalat we have new issues, new things that will be solved using these principles, like bay'ul, okay, forex, prohibition of forex. Sometimes the scholars they use saddu zara'eh, blocking the evil means. Okay, so now we see what is the nature of fiqh muamalat. So if compare with other types of fiqh, so what is the nature? Why is it different? What is the distinction of fiqh muamalat? Okay, um, so let us see what are the characteristics of this fiqh muamalat. Okay, the first thing is the first characteristic of fiqh muamalat is that it relies on the fundamental principles of the Shari'ah. So fiqh muamalat has two things. Okay, the first, the fiqh muamalat has some basic rule that it relies on the fundamental rules of the Sharia. It relies on Quran. It relies on the Sunnah. It relies on the legal maxims that we have learned, okay, in Sharia aspect. Is okay. So fiqh muamalat follows all those principles, but it has some distinction. Okay, it differs from others in such that the detailed ruling of transactions are left for juristic reasoning. Ijtihad, it provides opportunities for the juries to make juristic reasoning to solve the issues arising among the people. So here, fiqh muamalat has a wide scope open for ijtihad. Okay, so the Sharia only put the basic principles like, okay, riba is prohibited, okay, garar is prohibited, but there are lot of scope to do ijtihad. So how we can do transaction, okay, how we can do in terms of the some online transaction, in yeah, how how we do the musharaka or mudarabat. So there are many scope, okay, to do ijtihad, or which is opposite to like fiqh al-ibadah. So for ibadah, everything is prescribed in the Quran and Sunnah. There are very little scope for ijtihad. Okay, and then permissibility as a general rule. So this is the very good thing in fiqh muamalat, that the basic rule in, as I just said, in ibadah, the basic rule in ibadah, that everything is impermissible, prohibited, unless there is a dalil, there is a evidence from Quran or Sunnah. But in the muamalat, it is the opposite. In the muamalat, everything is permissible unless there is a prohibition in the text, means in the Quran or Sunnah or Ijma. Or, okay, so in fiqh muamalat, it is flexible. Okay, so however, the juries, they must find whether there is a prohibition related to this or not. We cannot just say, okay, there's nothing, okay, but maybe there is something in the Quran we don't know, or hadith. Okay, so after the juries, they make their effort whether there is some prohibition in the Quran or Sunnah related to this issue or not. If cannot be found, then it should be halal, okay, permissible. So basic rule in the muamala is that every transaction is permissible unless there is a text that prohibits this transaction. So this is the it is a very famous characteristics of fiqh muamalat. Okay, number three is fiqh muamalat appraises human reasoning and welfare. You see, in the ibadah, okay, most of the Sharia rulings related to ibadah are beyond human reasoning, like number of prayers. We may not know, like for example, about prayer. Why Allah Subhanahu wa Taala made prayer 5 times? Why there is two rak'ah of prayer? Okay, why? What is the meaning of? What is the reason behind fasting? Okay, we may not know. okay, or the reasoning may not be applied in ibadah. However, in fiqh muamalat, we have a wide scope to use our reasoning. Okay, we can, so in fiqh muamalat, that's why it can be questions. Okay, even the non-Muslims, they also agree with the principles of fiqh muamalat, because every principle of fiqh muamalat you can question and there is an answer. Okay, so why the prohibition of eating others property is illegal? Of course it should be illegal because to make justice. If not, there will be chaos in human life. Why riba is prohibited usually? Okay, I will know, okay, by the big scholars and even in the history, okay, how actually riba was actually prohibited by all types of religions. Okay, so every principle in fiqh muamalat we can question, we can use our intellect. So that's the good thing in fiqh muamalat. And then because of this, okay, fiqh muamalat is between rigid and flexible. Okay, so the basic principle of fiqh muamalat are rigid. Okay, like prohibition of riba and gar, we cannot change it, but there are some rulings. Okay, we call it the furu. Okay, which are not fundamental, so it is subject to change. Like sometimes it is allowed, but sometimes it can be prohibited based on the situation. Like some of the scholars, they we can know, like Islamic Fiqh Academy, they allowed tawarruk, okay, at the first year, and then the subsequent year they have prohibited it. Okay, so the fiqh muamalat actually is flexible. It can change. The ruling can be changed with the because of the change of the situation, because of the change of the time. It is allowed because the Shari'ah actually allows us to do the istihad. So that is the good thing in muamalat. There is nothing like especially in the furu, okay, in some contracts, even like for example, bayul inah, okay, it used to be halal, but many scholars said that now for Malaysia now they now should need to prohibit bayul inah, which was actually allowed at the beginning of Islamic banking, where at that time uh, where it was a need for Islamic banks to proceed. Okay, however, now Islamic banking is already matured, so we may remove like some contracts which are controversial, like by Ulina, for example. Okay, so these are the characteristics of fiqh muamalat. Okay, which is different from fiqh al ibadah or even fiqh al jinayah. So that's all for on this chapter. So we have already learned what is fiqhul muamalat. Okay, among all these, all the branches of fiqh. Okay, fiqh muamalat is one part of it. And then we have our learn why is it important to learn fiqh muamalat, how fiqh muamalat is related to human transaction, and then what is the source of knowledge for fiqh muamalat, and finally we have learned, okay, what are the okay, nature or characteristics, what are the speciality of fiqh muamalat. Okay, so that's all. uh, thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.